Melachim Aleph, or 1 Kings 10 through 11. And the sovereigness of Sheba heard of the report of Shelomoh concerning the name of Yehovah, and came to try him with hard questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great company, with camels that bore spices, very much gold, and precious stones. And she came to Shelomoh, and she spoke with him about all that was in her heart. And Shelomoh answered all her questions. There was no matter hidden for the sovereign that he did not make known to her. And the sovereigness of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Shelomoh and the house that he had built, and the food on his table, and the seating of his servants, and the service of his waiters, and their attire, and his cupbearers, and his ascending offerings, which he offered in the house of Yehovah. And there was no more spirit in her. Then she said to the sovereign, "The word I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom was true. But I did not believe the words until I came and saw with my own eyes. And see, I've not been told the half. Your wisdom and prosperity exceed the report which I heard. Blessed are your men, and blessed are these servants who stand continually before you, who are hearing your wisdom. Blessed be Yehovah your Elohim, who delighted in you, to put you on the throne of Israel, because Yehovah has loved Israel forever. Therefore, he made you sovereign to do right ruling and righteousness." And she gave the sovereign 120 talents of gold and very many spices and precious stones. Never again did so many spices come as the sovereigness of Sheba gave to sovereign Shelomoh, and also the ships of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, brought almug wood, a great many, and precious stones from Ophir. And the sovereign made steps of the almug wood for the house of Yehovah and for the sovereign's house, also lyres and harps for singers. No such almug wood has come or been seen to this day. And sovereign Shelomoh gave the sovereigness of Sheba all that she desired, whatever she asked, besides what he gave her according to the hand of sovereign Shelomoh. And she turned and went to her land, she and her servants. And the weight of gold that came to Shelomoh yearly was 666 talents of gold, besides that from men of travel, and the profit from traders, and from all the sovereigns of Arabia, and from the governors of the land. And sovereign Shelomoh made 200 large shields of beaten gold. 600 pieces of gold went into each shield, and 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 minas of gold went into each shield, and the sovereign put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. And the sovereign made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with refined gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round at the back, and there were armrests on either side of the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the armrests, and 12 lions were standing there, one on each side of the 6 steps. The like of it was never made in any reign. And all the drinking vessels of sovereign Shelomoh were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of refined gold, not of silver, for this was reckoned of little value in the days of Shelomoh. For the sovereign had ships of Tarshish at sea with a fleet of Hiram. Once every 3 years the ships of Tarshish came, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and baboons. And sovereign Shelomoh was greater than any of the sovereigns of the earth in riches and wisdom, and all the earth sought the presence of Shlomo to hear his wisdom, which Elohim had put in his heart. And they were each bringing his present, objects of silver and objects of gold, and garments and armor and spices, horses and mules, the matter of a year by year. And Shlomo gathered chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he stationed in the chariot cities and with the sovereign in Jerusalem. And the sovereign made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and he made cedars as plenty as the sycamores which are in the low country. And Shlomo had horses brought out from Mitzrayim and Kohe. The sovereign's merchants bought them in Kohe at a price. And a chariot came up and went out from Mitzrayim for 600 pieces of silver, and a horse 150. And so by their hand they brought them out to all the sovereigns of the Hittites and the sovereigns of Aram. Chapter 11. And sovereign Shlomo loved many foreign women in addition to the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations of whom Yehovah had said to the children of Israel, "You do not go into them, and they do not go into you, for they shall certainly turn away your hearts for their mighty ones." Shlomo clung to these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. And it came to be when Shlomo was old that his wives turned away his heart after other mighty ones, and his heart was not perfect with Yehovah his Elohim. This was the heart of his father David. And Shlomo went after Ashtoreth, the mighty one of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Thus Shlomo did evil in the eyes of Yehovah and did not follow Yehovah completely, like his father David. Then Shlomo built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, on the hill that is east of Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And so he did for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and slaughtered to their mighty ones. Therefore Yehovah was enraged with Shlomo, because his heart had turned away from Yehovah Elohim of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this word, not to go after other mighty ones. But he did not guard what Yehovah had commanded him. And Yehovah said to Shlomo, "Because you have done this, and have not guarded my covenant and my laws which I commanded you, I shall certainly tear the reign away from you and give it to your servant. Only I do not do it in your days for the sake of your father David. Out of the hand of your son I shall tear it. Only I shall not tear away all the reign, but give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I've chosen." And Yehovah raised up an adversary against Shlomo, Hadad, the Edomite. He was the seed of the sovereign in Edom. And it came to be when David was in Edom, and Joab, the commander of the army, had gone up to bury the slain after he had struck every male in Edom, Joab remained there with all Israel for 6 new moons, until every male in Edom was cut off. That Hadad fled to go to Mitzrayim, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, while Hadad was still a little child. And they arose from Midian and came to Paran, and took men with them from Paran, and came to Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, who gave him a house, and ordered food for him, and gave him land. And Hadad found much favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, so that he gave him as wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Sovereigness, Tachpenes. And the sister of Tachpenes bore him Genubath, his son, whom Tachpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in the house of Pharaoh among the sons of Pharaoh. And Hadad heard in Mitzrayim that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the commander of the army, was dead. And Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Let me go to my land." And Pharaoh said to him, "But what have you lacked with me, that you are now seeking to go to your own land?" And he answered, "No, but please let me go." And Elohim raised up another adversary against him, Rezon, son of Eliada, who had fled from his master, Hadadezer, sovereign of Zobah, and gathered men to him, and became commander over a raiding band when David killed those of Zobah. And they went to Damasek and dwelt there, and reigned in Damasek. And he was an adversary of Israel all the days of Shelomoh, besides the trouble that Hadad caused. And he was hostile to Israel, and reigned over Aram. And a servant of Shelomoh, a Yeroboam, son of Nebat, an Ephraimite from Saradah, whose mother's name was Zeruah, a widow, also lifted up a hand against the sovereign. And this is what caused him to lift up a hand against the sovereign. Shelomoh had built Millo, repairing the breaks in the city of David his father. And the man, Yeroboam, was a brave man, and Shelomoh, seeing that the young man was doing his work well, made him officer over all the compulsory labor of the house of Joseph. And it came to be at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahiah, the Shilonite, met him on the way, and he was wearing a new garment, and the two were alone in the field. And Ahiah took hold of the new garment that was on him, and tore it into 12 pieces, and said to Jeroboam, "Take for yourself 10 pieces. For thus said Yehovah, the Elohim of Israel, see, I'm tearing the rein out of the hand of Shelomoh, and shall give 10 tribes to you. But he shall have 1 tribe for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I've chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. Because they've forsaken me, and bow themselves to Ashtaroth, the mighty one of the Sidonians, to Chemosh, the mighty one of the Moabites, and to Milcom, the mighty one of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do what is right in my eyes, and my laws, and my right rulings, as did his father David. But I do not take all the rein out of his hand, because I've made him ruler all the days of his life for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose, because he guarded my commands, my laws. And I shall take the rein out of his son's hand, and give it to you, the 10 tribes. And to his son I give 1 tribe, so that my servant David shall always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city which I've chosen for myself, to put my name there. So I take you, and you shall reign over all that your being desires, and you shall be a sovereign over Israel. And it shall be, if you obey all that I command you, and shall walk in my ways, and do what is right in my eyes, to guard my laws and my commands, as my servant David did, Then I shall be with you and build for you a steadfast house, as I built for David, and shall give Israel to you. And because of this, I humble the seed of David, but not forever. And Shelomoh sought to kill Jeroboam, but Jeroboam rose up and fled to Mitzrayim, to Shishak, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and was in Mitzrayim until the death of Shelomoh. And the rest of the acts of Shelomoh, all that he did, and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Shelomoh? And the days that Shelomoh reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. So Shelomoh slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his place. Debir Ha-Yamim Bet, or 2 Chronicles, chapter 9. And the sovereigness of Sheba heard of the report of Shelomoh and came to Jerusalem to try Shelomoh with hard questions, with a very great company, and camels bearing spices and much gold and precious stones. And she came to Shelomoh, and she spoke with him about all that was in her heart. And Shelomoh answered all her questions, and there was no matter hidden for Shelomoh which he did not make known to her. And the sovereigness of Sheba saw the wisdom of Shelomoh, and the house he had built, and the food on his table, and the seating of his servants, and the service of his waiters, and their attire, and his cupbearers, and their attire, and his ascending offerings, that he offered up in the house of Jehovah. And there was no more spirit in her. Then she said to the sovereign, True was the word I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom, but I did not believe their words until I came and saw with my own eyes. And see, I have not been told the half of the greatness of your wisdom. You exceed the report which I heard. Blessed are your men, and blessed are these servants who stand continually before you and hear your wisdom. Blessed be Yehovah your Elohim, who delighted in you, to put you on his throne to be sovereign for Yehovah your Elohim. Because your Elohim has loved Israel to establish them forever, therefore he made you sovereign over them, to do right ruling and righteousness. And she gave the sovereign 120 talents of gold and very many spices and precious stones. There has not been any spices such as those the sovereigness of Sheba gave to sovereign Shelomoh. And also the servants of Hiram and the servants of Shelomoh who brought gold from Ophir, brought algum wood and precious stones. And the sovereign made stairs of the algum wood for the house of Jehovah and for the sovereign's house, also lyres and harps for singers. And there was never seen the like of them before in the land of Yehudah. And sovereign Shelomoh gave to the sovereigness of Sheba all that she desired, whatever she asked besides that which she had brought to the sovereign. And she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. And the weight of gold that came to Shelomoh yearly was 666 talents of gold, besides that which the merchants and the traders brought, and all the sovereigns of Arabia and the governors of the land were bringing gold and silver to Shelomoh. And sovereign Shelomoh made 200 large shields of beaten gold. 600 pieces of beaten gold went into each shield, and 300 shields of beaten gold, 300 pieces of gold went into each of those shields. And the sovereign put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. And the sovereign made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with clean gold, and 6 steps led to the throne with a footstool of gold, which were fastened to the throne, and there were armrests on either side of the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the armrests, and 12 lions were standing there, one on each side of the 6 steps. The like of it was not seen in any reign. And all the drinking vessels of sovereign Shelomoh were of gold, and the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of refined gold. Silver was reckoned of little value in the days of Shelomoh, for the sovereign's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Hiram. Once in 3 years the ships of Tarshish came, bringing gold and silver, ivory, apes, and baboons. And sovereign Shelomoh became greater than all the sovereigns of the earth in riches and wisdom. And all the sovereigns of the earth sought the presence of Shelomoh to hear his wisdom, which Elohim had put in his heart. And each man brought his present, objects of silver, and objects of gold, and garments, and armor, and spices, horses and mules, the matter of year by year. And Shelomoh had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen whom he stationed in the chariot cities, and with the sovereign at Jerusalem. And he ruled over all the sovereigns from the river to the land of the Philistines as far as the border of Mitzrayim. And the sovereign made silver in Jerusalem as the stones, and he made cedar trees as plenty as the sycamores which are in the low country. And they were bringing horses to Shelomoh from Mitzrayim and from all lands. And the rest of the acts of Shelomoh, first and last, are they not written in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecy of Achiah the Shilonite, and in the visions of Iddo the seer concerning Jeroboam, son of Nebat? And Shalom reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. So Shelomoh slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam his son reigned in his place.